Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's been a minute. Hope you guys have been well. It's been a couple months since I've been able to sit down and make a little nerdy vlog update for you guys, but I had some time here tonight and figured I would catch you guys up to speed on what's going on. We will address the camera right here. As you can see, that's not the red one. For those of you that missed the little text post update that I put on this channel, the red one is gone. I sold it either last weekend or the weekend before, I don't remember, but red one's gone. The red PL lens is gone. And what's taken its place for now is the Panasonic GH6. And so I wanted to talk about, somebody commented on a video that I did on the GH6 and was like, I'm really interested to hear why you went back to the GH6. Well, let me tell you why. I'm gonna get the awkward part out of the way first. Sometimes you make investments in camera equipment that are bad. I've done that loads of times. That are just, it's like a bad move on your part. And the red one was a bad move on my part, not because the camera was terrible, it's not. Red one's a fantastic camera. The problem is that I purchased it at the beginning of the year and it never left the house. I never took it out other than my patio. It was basically sitting in my living room here looking pretty. And you know, one of the things that I am slowly beginning to realize is that having the ability to have a camera that I can run around with and do my artwork with is very important to me. And one of the things that I was kind of in denial on for a long time, once I started getting into the bigger cameras 6 or 7 years ago, like the Varicams and the F900s and everything, is that the weight of the rig would slow me down or not, it would make me not want to even go and create anything, because I came from an environment where, you know, I started with cameras like this, you know, the DVX 100. And so I learned filmmaking on cameras that I could put in my hand and I could run around with, and the weight wasn't even really a thing. And when I jumped away from the mobility of I guess camera technology that I was used to my whole life, and I got into the ENG cameras and the big, first generation cinema cameras like the Genesis and the F23 and everything. One of the things that I really looked back on after, like right before deciding to sell the red, is I realized like I really didn't make a whole lot of stuff with those cameras, and it wasn't because, I didn't want to, but then again it was this fact of like, I would have an idea, or I would have the wanting to go out and film, but I'm like, do I really want to lug around? Like Nick and I are going to be out doing stuff, or I'm going to go out for a walk, or I'm going to, do I really want to lug 20, 30, 40 pounds worth of a camera around? Because I'm very much a run and gun type artist. And so I realized I kind of had like one of those big adult moments where it's like, you made an oopsie, and so I decided to let go of the red, and I started researching different cameras, and I went through a couple of them. You guys didn't know this just because I really didn't post much of anything online, but I had a Panasonic S5 II, which I did post something about that on there. I had the GH6, then I went back to the S5, then I returned everything for a little bit and just sat on it. And then I was really close to going to the Sony FX30. And then just with my budget, the budget that I had for a camera package, I was like, I'm gonna go back to the GH6. So let me now explain to you why I chose the GH6 out of everything. One, it had to do with money. It had to do with budget. That was a big one. The second one was, I felt like, for those of you that have been following me for quite some time, you understand that I'm not a snob when it comes to the size of the sensor. There's a lot of filmmakers out there that are like, I'm not touching the camera unless it's full frame, which I just think is fucking stupid. But I've never been, I've worked with 2/3 inch cameras, 1/3 inch CCD cameras. Super 35, full frame. Like I've worked with all of them, and so I'm not, when I'm looking at a camera, I'm not really caring about what the size of the sensor is, you know. So, because a lot of people were like, like a lot of my film friends were like, how could you go to the GH6? It's micro four thirds. Micro four thirds is dying. You know, it's like, that's really stupid. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Everybody's got an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, and they all stink. So. Sorry about that. The reasons why I went back to the GH6 is I feel like for the money, this is my opinion now, and this also has to do with something that's happening currently, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be permanent. So right now, those of you in America, and whatever other countries might possibly have a Best Buy. I think Best Buy is just in America, but do not quote me on that. I don't know that. It might be in Canada too. I don't know. That's besides the point. Best Buy has a special right now that if you are a Plus member of theirs, which is like, it's a membership that costs like $50 a year, they take an additional $400 off of the GH6 body only. And so that brings the camera down to about $1,200. So it puts it right in the price range of the Blackmagic Pocket 4K that's been around for forever. Now here's the thing, all right? I have quite a few friends and quite a few film connections that swear by Blackmagic, okay? I am one of the people that I've never been a fan of their cameras. I've never been a fan of pretty much anything that company has made except for the DaVinci software. Their DAs, you know, overheat and break. I much prefer AJA devices in that arena. The Blackmagic cameras that I've had, the battery is terrible. There's a lot of gremlins in it, and people are just like, well, the image quality is great. It's like, great. Well, yeah, it doesn't really matter if the image quality is great if everything else about the camera sucks and breaks down and doesn't work right and fights you. And that's been my experience with Blackmagic cameras. So for the same price that you can get a Blackmagic camera for, you can get a camera that shoots higher frame rates, higher resolution, multiple different codecs. You've got internal ProRes like the Blackmagic. You know, as you can see here, I have the camera set up for raw video. I'll get through my whole kit in a minute, but the HDMI port on the GH6 spits out 5.8K raw, ProRes raw, or B raw. So even if you were a Blackmagic fanboy, you could just get a Blackmagic Video Assist and work with the B-RAW codec and be right as rain. So it's a professional video camera. I mean, there's no getting around, regardless of how tiny this is, regardless of it, you know, being one of those mirrorless cameras where it's video centric, but it's in a like photography body, which has always just been weird to me. You can't get around the fact that this is a professional video camera. It's got time code, it's got gen lock, it's got, you know, professional audio controls in it. You know, you can get an adapter for the hot shoe to put XLR onto the fucking camera. You know, there's nothing about this camera that, you know, doesn't warrant it, in my opinion, to be considered a professional video camera. Or at least a prosumer camera, you know, a camera in the same market as these DVX 100s used to be in. So, yeah, so the way the kit's built up is I do have a speed booster attached to it. I have the trusty old Sigma 18-35. This is probably the third or fourth time I've owned this fucking lens. The cool thing with the speed booster, for those of you that don't understand what a speed booster is, I'm sure all of you do, but those of you that don't, speed boosters are allowing you to capture a wider field of view. So it essentially takes that micro four thirds field of view and it widens it to, at least the one that I have, it sits just in between full frame and Super 35. So you get a little bit wider field of view than Super 35, but a little bit narrower than full frame, if that makes any sense. Like on the 18 mil of this lens, I get some minor vignetting at 18 millimeter, especially if I'm shooting open gate, which I'll get into all the specs of that in a minute. So I've pushed the camera out of micro four thirds, and I've gotten a little bit higher than Super 35. So I consider it like, you know, Super 35 digital cinema rig. I've got a generic top handle that's just attached to the shoe on top of the camera here. I've got the rail system. Really built this up from parts that I had in my house that I wasn't using. You know, this rail system was originally intended for the DVX 100, and it was just sitting in a box, and so I just rigged it. I've got a little lens support down there, follow focus. The shape matte box that I was using on the Red One is now on here. And then I have the Atomos Ninja V. And this is one of the coolest fucking things that I have used in a long time. It's not only is it an amazing monitor, first and foremost, but it is capable of turning this tiny little camera into a system that is giving me better quality images than the Red One that I had by a landslide, which is crazy. And it shoots on these little mini SSDs, which are pretty cool, made by Angelbird, which is pretty cool. So the SSD just, you know, slides onto the back of the unit here like that. And the cool thing is that if you have an Apple, I can't say if this works with Intel Macs or Windows or whatever, but from my experience, if you have a Apple Silicon computer, I have a M2 MacBook Pro, I edit directly off the drive onto from the sled. Like there's this little reader you can get from Atomos that is USB-C and it plugs in. I edit straight off the drive. I don't move a single file onto my Mac, and I edit straight in Final Cut directly from the drive. And then when I'm done, if I need to archive the footage, I'll archive it, which, you know, unless I'm working a paid gig or something, I never do that. I never save my raw footage. So then I'll just dump it, reformat it, and I'm good to go. So nothing ever really touches the computer, just the work itself, but the files stay on the drive as you're editing, and everything runs in real time, which I think is insane. Like, just where we've come, that's nuts. And I'm talking about like 5.8K ProRes RAW files, which is nuts. So the different flavors of this, like the resolution and stuff. So the camera has a 4x3 sensor, which is really cool. So you can shoot open gate. So you can capture every single pixel in that sensor, and then mat it however you want. I am tending to have a bit of nostalgia, so I'm going back and just mastering stuff in 4x3. I just think it's a cool look. It's just it's a look that I haven't really been around in quite some time, because I started filmmaking right on the verge of when everything was moving from 4x3 to 16:9. So it's cool, but you can treat it more like film, because Academy 35 obviously is like 137, and you would mat that, you know. So it's a neat little aesthetic thing. The monitor has built-in waveforms, built-in vector scopes, built-in focus peaking, lookup tables, all the fun stuff, all the things that you would, you know, I could imagine that you would need in a monitor. This thing has it. It's, for the money, I think it's fantastic. The camera shoots up to 5.8K, and I think the lowest it goes is 1080. And I haven't done a whole lot of testing on any of the other frame rates or resolutions other than just 24p at the maximum resolution. So I do know that I believe it can go up to 120 frames per second, but I don't remember offhand what resolutions or you know, all of that. But internally it has Apple ProRes 422HQ, which is a 10-bit 422 codec, which is really solid. It also has intra-frame codecs, AVC Intra, which is really nice. It has long GOP. So you have a bunch of different flavors depending on, you know, what your computer can handle or what, you know, your project might need. It's a very versatile camera. The dynamic range is fantastic. The variable frame rate option is really cool too. So yeah, it's, you know, I could go on for forever, but I do have a limited amount of time to catch up with you guys, so I apologize for kind of doing the cliff notes on this. But yeah, so that is what I'm doing. That's what I'm shooting with. as of right now, and I'm actually really happy with it. And I think that once camera companies are able to, I guess, legally allow ProRes RAW internally, I know Nikon has a couple, and Red tried suing them because the one thing I don't like about Red is that they're a little bit of bullies with other camera companies, because they 18 years ago or so, they issued or got this patent that says that they have the ability to not have other camera companies put internal RAW into their cameras. It's all this weird shit. I just don't, to me, because I feel like at this point now, with especially how far Apple has advanced with their iPhones and everything, I think we would have internal ProRes RAW ability on the iPhone if Red wasn't being Red. So when cameras like this that are this light and this mobile can do RAW video, that's really going to change things. And the biggest thing is that it costs the same. When you're able to get RAW video for under $3,000, I think that's going to be a game changer, and I think it's going to really open up the ability for people that might not have the ability to get a hold of even something like this setup with the Atomos and the GH6. I think it'll be really interesting. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to start rambling if I keep talking. So I'm going to let you guys go and enjoy your weekend. If you stayed all the way until the end, thank you very much. Do consider, if you like the artwork that I make and you like these little nerd vlog videos, I guess, think about subscribing, turning the notifications on, hitting the like button, all that fun generic YouTube stuff. So that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. You have a great weekend. And if you have any questions about the GH6 that I didn't talk about, leave it in the comments below and I will get to it sooner than later. But you're all awesome. Thank you for your support. Have a great weekend. Bye.